Hi guys, it seems pretty much every election going forward in Europe is going to be dominated by immigration. And while this issue is important, those who claim to be most concerned about it don't seem to actually understand some of the basics. Many voters don't know the difference between an economic migrant and an asylum seeker. They don't know, as part of an advanced economy, in many cases their compatriots will refuse to do low-paid work, and those jobs need to be filled if we're to maintain a certain standard of living. Many voters think that asylum seekers can and should be deported before their claims are processed, and unfortunately politicians play on those fears and misinformation to suit their own ends. However, one of the issues surrounding immigration is of course identity, and Tom, a texter to News Talk in Ireland, probably didn't like some of the answers he got to his question.
Tom in Ennis, though, says, Kieran, migration has to be one of the major issues in the upcoming election. It is adding greatly to the housing and accommodation crisis. It needs to be controlled and streamlined properly. Otherwise, we, the native Irish, will be like how Eamon de Butler described the threat to the native red squirrels, strangers in their own land. Tom, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with the need for a controlled and streamlined immigration system, but this is a genuine question, not being facetious. 087 1400 106. Who are the native Irish? What boxes do you have to tick to be considered native Irish, I wonder? I'd like an answer to that question. I asked earlier a texter who got in touch talking about the native Irish in the context of the general election to get back in touch and tell me what they mean by native Irish. And we're after getting a response. So let's work out who might be left on the island of Ireland after this. Right, first of all, native Irish, one surname. Okay, an Irish surname. So the original text, just by way of illustration, referenced someone called Eamon de Butler. De Butler is a Norman name, so from northern France. So anybody with the name Butler de Butler, you're not a native Irish person. Walsh is the fourth most popular surname in Ireland. Brathnock, Welshman, you're not native Irish. And if you've got a Walsh anywhere in your family tree, or a de Butler anywhere in your family tree, going back, you're not Irish. Right, so we've eliminated all those people. You need an Irish surname. 2, at least 5 generations of your family buried on Irish soil. So what's 5? Great-great-great-grandparents? So you've got 32 great-great-great-grandparents. If one of your 32 great-great-great-grandparents moved to England and died there, you're not Irish. Now, it had nothing to do with you. One of your 32 great-great-great-grandparents moved to England and died. You're not Irish because they're not buried here. Okay, good. We've eliminated a great swathe of the population there. So, 3, must be a native Irish speaker. Right, according to the census, we've gotten rid of probably about 70% more of the people who are left. What's number 4? DNA showing that you've been on Ireland, your family, for 1,000 years. 1,000 years, since the year 1024. We didn't have the Norman invasion until 1169. So again, let's go by the surnames. If you have a surname Cody, Burke, Cantwell, Dillon, Darcy, Dalton, Fitz anything, Walsh, Roach, Power, a whole plethora of other names. And if they're anywhere in your family tree, according to this listener, you are not Irish. 5, not formally being a citizen of any other country. Again, I go back to the Irish people, maybe over the last, 15, 20 years in the wake of the Celtic Tigers collapse, who moved to Australia and took up citizenship, or maybe people, children of Irish people born abroad who automatically have citizenship of that country. They're not Irish either, those people who've moved to this country. So I think what we've kind of established here, according to this listener, is that the population of this country would be about 3 people and a couple of chickens.
Well said. Oh my goodness. You know, this whole idea of what is being native Irish completely falls apart as soon as you ask a few questions, as we've seen here. Now, joking aside, this is going to be, unfortunately, an issue going into the general election in Ireland at the end of this month, and other elections around Europe and around the world. Immigration is going to dominate in some parts of the world, and we saw, the impact it had in the recent election that resulted in Donald Trump getting back into the White House. It is an issue because it's linked to housing, for example, in Ireland. Now, it's not the immigrants' fault, it's not the asylum seekers' fault that there isn't enough housing. It's the government. The government have taken a political decision not to build enough houses, and whatever houses are built, a lot of that is going into the the portfolios of of companies, of businesses, of corporations. This is a massive problem. See, if you're not providing enough housing, and you're not providing enough affordable and social housing as well, then you're going to have a rise in the price of housing. You're going to see more and more people ending up in poverty, in rented accommodation and on the street. So if the government don't deal with this, the housing issue, you're going to see very unsavory elements use that to achieve their goal. And their goal, of course, is to close the borders and to push asylum seekers out and to end immigration and stuff like this. These people are not providing solutions. They're just interested in using a particular problem to facilitate their own ends. Now, if we look at other countries, for example, Scotland, you come to Scotland, you're Scottish. There is no, well, you need to be, living here a certain amount of time, or you need, in relation to generations, you don't need to have been in Scotland for 1,000 years. There's none of this rubbish. The people of Scotland understand the value of immigration. They understand, look, we need people here to work in the care sector. We need people to work in the NHS. They value immigration. Now, I think a big problem is a lot of dishonesty from politicians. We saw it recently in a number of elections. The politicians saying the problem is immigration, not us. We have the power to build enough houses, we have the power to change the laws, we have the power to do X, Y, and Z. But it's much easier for us just to blame the immigrants. And you're going to see people like Nigel Farage and others weaponize this as they've done in the past. They see an opportunity. There's an economic crisis at the moment. The government are struggling. Well, what we can do is we can blame the immigrants. Oh, if we bring down immigration, then we can fix all these problems. And we should provide housing, for example, for the native population. But as was pointed out here, who is the native population? See, this is based on feelings. It's not based on facts. You ask people on the street, what in your opinion is the native population? You're going to get 100 different answers, as this caller or this texter did. Based on DNA, based on, whether your family has been buried on Irish soil in this case. It's hilarious. It's a joke. But unfortunately, it's something that many people believe, and it's something that politicians have tapped into to benefit themselves. And we need adults. We need sound heads when it comes to this issue. And unfortunately, that's been lacking over the last number of years. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.